After weeks of anticipation, it's finally here. I finally got my hands on the ROG Ally. And my experience so far has been a bit of a roller coaster with lots of ups and downs. So in today's video, I want to give you guys my first impressions of the ROG Ally. So let's talk about the ROG Ally experience. Inside the box, you'll find the ROG Ally, a 65-watt charger, and a plastic stand, which actually comes in pretty handy. The Ally hardware itself is definitely a solid piece of technology. It's well constructed and not cheaply made, coming directly from the Steam Deck. I'm not a huge fan of the ergonomics. I've yet to have a really long gaming session with it, but for some of the shorter sessions I've had thus far with my big hands, it definitely does work pretty well. When it comes to the buttons and the sticks on the Ally, it's a bit of a mixed bag here. The A, B, X, and Y buttons are nice and tactile and clicky. They work really well. The bumpers, I'm not a huge fan of. They feel a bit mushy. Same thing when it comes to the triggers. Oh, and the back bumpers are absolutely terrible on this thing. I did disable them in the software, but I'm really looking forward to a modification that just removes them completely from the hardware. The analog sticks, in my opinion, are pretty decent though. I'm not sure if they're Hall or not, but personally, I've not run into any issues with them. I have heard of some folks online that have had some issues with dead zones, but for me personally, it's not been an issue. This directional pad though, I absolutely hate it. I'm not sure what this design is specifically called, where it's basically one circular button and you can kind of rock it around, but I'm not a huge fan of this design at all. And once again, definitely looking forward to future hardware mods, which would give you the ability to swap out this directional pad. The speakers are good though. They get nice and loud and definitely don't need headphones, but if you do need them, you do have the option of either Bluetooth or using the 3.5mm headphone jack. Speaking of I/O, there's not too much to really go over here. You do have the aforementioned 3.5mm headphone jack. You are going to have a micro SD card slot for extra storage, which once again, as of the time recording this video, I've heard of folks running into a bunch of issues with their micro SD cards actually being fried or unreadable by the slot, so be careful or definitely look into it. Hopefully it's been resolved in the future. And then you are going to have the combo XG mobile port, which also doubles as your only USB-C port. Oh, and just a few more buttons I forgot to mention. Along the top, you are going to find a volume rocker, which is going to give you both your volume down and up buttons. And then you're also going to have your power button / fingerprint reader. So this is how you're going to turn on the ROG Ally, as well as log into Windows if you don't want to use a password. So now I want to talk about the setup and usage experience of the ROG Ally. Setting up Windows on the ROG Ally is really painful. You do have the ability to use the on-screen keyboard and touch features, but in all honesty, it's not a great experience. You're much better off if you have the capability using an external keyboard and mouse to get Windows all set up. Now, after you have Windows all set up on your Ally, this is where the pain really starts to begin, because the next thing you're going to have to do is install all of your updates. And there are a ton of updates. You're gonna have to run a number of BIOS or firmware updates for the Ally. And then after that, you're also gonna turn around and have to run a number of updates for your Armoury Crate software, which for some reason doesn't give you all of the updates at the exact same time. They're kind of rolling and they're continuous. And then there is the dreaded Windows updates, which there are a ton of these. And after you do all of your updates, you can then start installing games and trying out the ROG Ally. In my opinion, I think the setup time is around anywhere from 3 to 4 hours before you can actually use the ROG Ally for pretty much anything. Now, once you've got everything installed and updated to its latest version, using the ROG Ally becomes a little bit less painful. You are going to primarily interact with ASUS's Armoury Crate software, which does launch with Windows. It does pretty much give you the ability to launch all of your titles. Anything you're installing through any of the major game launchers, such as Steam, Epic Games, EA Desktop, etc., is going to pop up inside of the Armoury Crate, and you can launch games right from that menu without needing to click around within Windows. So while the ROG Ally isn't perfect, I think it's a fantastic piece of hardware and it's got a ton of potential for a number of things in the future. I mean, I didn't even talk about the specifications on this thing. It's got an AMD Z1 Extreme processor, which is super powerful. I was able to play a ton of titles at much higher fidelity than I ever have on my Steam Deck. It also has whisper quiet operation. I'm gonna chalk it up to that Z1 Extreme processor, but this thing, even in turbo turbo mode is pretty much whisper quiet. Once again, especially when I compare it to my actual Steam Deck, which sounds like a jet engine about to take off every time I'm playing a AAA title. And then I didn't talk about the 120 Hz VRR enabled display, which again, high refresh rate gaming is definitely my thing, and it's really exciting to see something other than 60 Hz on a handheld, even if you're maybe doing some frame limiting. I also think the ROG Ally will be the catalyst for possibly some of the best handhelds we'll see in the next couple of years. We've already seen some players like Aya release new handhelds to sort of counter this particular device. And we also heard Valve is working on their next generation of a Steam Deck, whatever that might be. And hopefully they're taking notes. They possibly put a better screen, whisper quiet operation, possibly even a better processor. Who knows? Either way, I'm just really excited that the ROG Ally exists, even if it's not the best device in the world. But those are my first impressions of the ROG Ally. Anyway, that's going to wrap this video up for me, guys. As always, if you like this video, hit the like button. And if it's your first time to the channel, consider subscribing. Once again, my name is Fran. Thanks for checking out this video, and I'll see you guys in my next one.